Hey everyone, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling. Thank you so much for tuning in. As I'm filming this, it's a gorgeous day in PEI where Sarah and I are on vacation. That's why the background looks different. For today's episode, it's one of my favorite collecting subjects, 8 tracks. Another one of my favorite collecting subjects is Kiss. So yes, I'm going over my Kiss 8-track collection. It is not exactly complete, but it's pretty complete, and I'm okay with the fact that it's probably as complete as mine's going to be. So I'm going to go over it. I've got a lot here to talk about. Of course, Kiss' first album came out in 1974, so then the heart of the 8-track era, and I'll go over the versions that I have. This is the first Kiss album from 74. This is an RCA Music Service version, and I'm not sure why they chose yellow as the color, like when they packaged this, but it's striking, it stands out. I like the fact that unlike most RCA Music Service cards, they actually did use the real logo here. And on the back, yes, this does include Kiss in Time, as most Kiss collectors know. The version of this one to seek out is the original one that came out when Casablanca was distributed by Warner Brothers that does not have Kiss in Time on it, but I'm perfectly content with this version. Much older, as far as an older issue goes, is the second Kiss album for me. Also 1974, Hotter Than Hell. This is a really old version on Casablanca. Somebody wrote their name on here, Ramos. And this is when Casablanca was distributed by Ampex Tapes. So this is a pretty old one. I'm not saying it's an original one, but I am saying this one's been around for a little while. That one of the copy of the first album is considerably newer, I would say. Third Kiss album, 1975, Dressed to Kill. This one's got a little bit of wear along here, but that's all right. This is a U.S. Columbia House issue. This is what they looked like. And this was owned by someone named Dilly, or Dill, D-I-L-L-E, it looks like. You know, sometimes I'll kind of gripe about people writing their names on things, but there is some history there too. So there you go, that's Dressed to Kill. First Canadian one, I have a few Canadian ones here, but the first I'm going to show you is, of course, their breakthrough album, Alive, from 1975. This is a Casablanca issue when it was distributed by Quality Records in Canada. Now what's interesting about this, of course, is I'm pretty sure that all of the songs, the song title order is mixed up, I'm pretty sure. Because Rock and Roll All Night should not be the third song on Alive. Anyway. It's not bad shape, pretty old, it's heavier. You can tell there's a lot of tape on this because it's a double album. What I find interesting about this is because the songs that date back to 1975 have an asterisk beside them and the rest say 74. But it's all 75 because there's no studio versions on here, so I don't know why they felt the need to do that. One that I've had 3 different copies of that look completely different. Will now has one of them, and Jeff Witcher has one of them. And I now have this one, this copy of Destroyer. This is a Canadian copy. Again, Casablanca Records, distributed by Quality Records in Canada. And it's got song titles all mixed up. Well, it's actually not bad. Now, not having a working player, I have no idea if this has the weird stuff at the very end of the album after Do You Love Me fades out. Be curious to know if it did. But not bad shape. It's pretty smooth along here. First really rare one I want to show you. Of course, also in 1976, that was the first big album they had because Beth started to become a hit. And Casablanca repackaged the first 3 Kiss albums as the originals. I've gone over that on my Kiss Vinyl episode, well, both of our Kiss Vinyl episodes. And the originals has yet to be issued on CD. I still feel like someday they will because there's money to be made, because there's crazy collectors like me that will go out and buy it. It wasn't even issued on cassette, which is odd, but it was issued on 8-track. And they put it on 2 tapes, and this is right up in the corner, second printing. I don't know if you can see that or not in the yellow writing. It's very small. The originals, volumes 1 and 2. This is a U.S. copy on Casablanca Records. And they have mixed up the song titles. Yeah, they've definitely mixed up the song titles on here. I've made an entry for this on Discogs if you want to check out the exact order of the songs, but I was really glad to pick these up, and not in bad shape, really. 1976, one more from 76, and another Canadian one, Rock and Roll Over. I love this album. I love it so much, I wrote my name on it. No, whoever had this was named Tim. They wrote it on here. I would never do that. Again, another U.S. Or Casablanca Records in the U.S., distributed by Quality Records in Canada. Someone did not like Gene because they took a pen to Gene's face and not the rest of them. Who did it? Was it Ace? Was it Peter? No. So here you go. Different looking card. Song titles are all mixed up. Hard Luck Woman's the very last one on here. Just doesn't make any sense, but that's what they did with 8 tracks. They had to make sure the programs were of approximate equal length. The first one that I've had for a long time, 1977 Love Gun. This is a pretty beat up copy. Canadian issue, distributed by Quality. Big chunk of it taken out here. And I remember Chad and I listening to this. It actually has a ball game taped over it. So there's no, the music's on here, but there's a ball game taped over it, which is kind of funny. Yeah, fascinating to me. I want, you know, the history of these things. You know, how many hands did this pass through before it got to me? Next one I'm going to show you is Fancy. Fancy because I actually have a slipcase for it. I actually don't know if this is the case that a slipcase, but it works. Casablanca Records slipcase. Now, some slipcases had the covers on. This is just a blank one with the label on it, marketed by Polydor. As this was, like in Canada, it's funny because they switched to Polydor polygram distribution in Canada about 3 years before they did it in the States, before Casablanca was bought up by Mercury. So in Canada, it's like, well, yeah, we'll manufacture those. It's a little bit like the Beatles getting signed to the Canadian branch of Capitol Records about 6 months before the U.S. That's a fact, actually, if you want to look that up. I'm no Beatles expert, but I remember reading that, and that stood out to me. Now, this is a live 2 from 77. Everything's on 1 tape, unlike in the U.S. where it's on 2. Again, like a live, this is it's a heavier like tape. There's a lot of actual tape inside of this, and everything's broken up into 4 programs, including the studio tracks. Give you an example of how they would put things on 2 tapes. 1978, Double Platinum. This is an RCA Music Service edition of Double Platinum in Canada. If you were to find this, it would be like a live 2. It would be on just one tape, like the cassettes are. This is kind of cool. They're different colors, and I don't know why they put these on 2, because they're short songs, even though there's 20 altogether. Kind of cool though. It's not shiny or anything. Now we're into the solo albums, and the solo albums I've always put in the order of the Casablanca serial numbers, which went 71, 20, 21, 22, and 23. And he would tell you that this makes sense, that Gene's was the first. This is a really nice Canadian issue of Gene's solo album, aside from the fact that there's a corner taken out of it here, so the tape's more or less exposed. But again, polygram distribution on here. Yeah, this is in really good shape. You don't see a lot of them that look like this. And on the back there. The rest of these are US copies. My personal favorite of the solo albums is Ace's album, 7121, and its serial number. Now we go to my least favorite. Sorry, Pete. It's Peter's album. A little scuffy here on the bottom. Actually, it does have the serial number on the back here, 7122, but I would have compared it with my record anyway. And another one that's I really like is Paul's album. This one's in really good shape too. 7123. Next up, another Canadian edition and one of my favorite Kiss albums. This is Dynasty. It was owned by someone whose initials were CU. First song on this 2000 Man. They've got the song titles all mixed up. This is actually a Canadian Columbia House edition. I don't have a lot of Canadian Columbia House tapes. They're out there, I just don't see them. And I've only got one more to show you. This is one of the handful of 8-tracks I have that are still sealed. This is a US Columbia House version of Unmasked. And the contrast of the pictures is such that you can hardly read the writing on here, or I get ripped off. But anyway, you don't see Unmasked very much. This is the only one I have from the 1980s. CRC there marks as Columbia House. That and the fact they don't even use the KISS logo. It's in a Columbia House slipcase. There you go. So, of course, I'm missing 4. Music from the Elder, which came out on retail. I've only ever seen US copies of it. It's always expensive when it comes up on eBay. My personal favorite, Creatures of the Night. Again, the last retail one to be released by Casablanca Mercury. Would love to get my hands on a copy of that. Again, I've never, not that it's expensive, I've never even seen that one come up on eBay. I have seen the Elder a couple of times. And the final 2, which as far as I know are only available in Columbia House issues, Lick It Up and Animalize. And I'll be honest with you, earlier this year, I almost pulled the trigger on a buy it now for a copy of Animalize on 8-track. It would have set me back at least 150 bucks. And in the end, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Do I have regret that I didn't do it? A little bit. Who knows? I might come across it in a estate sale or something like that. But yeah, that's what's out there for KISS 8-tracks. As far as I know, that's the last. You never know. They might have done one for Asylum because they did. You know, there are 8-tracks past 1984, but the KISS albums weren't selling as much as other ones at that point. So who knows? But it's a lot of fun collecting anyway. That's my KISS 8-track collection. Thank you for watching Tim's Final Confessions.